Our TA seems chill.
Yeah, oh yeah, Chris. I had class with him last quarter. So.
Does anybody have any like thoughts about how this will be structured or how it'll go?
Yeah, I guess we'll figure it out as we go along.
Yeah, I just like wrote down some questions, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of had some like notes, it's like some thoughts I had when I was writing out my notes.
Yeah, and like if I thought something was vague in the reading, I just like question it, but you know, why? Something like this.
Yeah, I feel like we can just kind of like just start talking about something, and like if tangents happen, then we just let them happen and just
Probably good.
Does anyone want to start?
Oh, is it already recorded?
It's going.
Oh, shit.
You mean to state our names?
Oh, alright, is there a structure? Is there like a guideline for these things?
Oh, it just says at the beginning to state our name, I think.
Okay.
What is it supposed to say?
During recording, after pressing record, each member must loudly and clearly state his or her name. Then begin the discussion.
We're gonna go around.
Okay. Nate Pickslay?
Arya Poorsoltan.
Dr. Nicols?
Ryan Rodriguez.
And
Dante, Ruiz. Aron, Piotrowski.
is it Aryan?
Aron.
Aron.
Okay, so I had a question, and it was, why would anyone believe in idealism? It's based on all spirituality. How can you base your entire life on it when the world's like a real place and it's material? But I guess that's why it's not really that popular nowadays in like the Western world. It's mostly materialistic. It's just like
Which one was idealism? What's like the definition of
right
it?
here is the only spiritual things have a true existence, and the material is just like an illusion. So it's kind of like
Oh, that's like super new agey.
yeah. So it's like, how can you believe that when the world's like real? Is there?
Interesting.
Did that tie into a question of whether it is of happiness, or like trying to define?
No, it's like one of the theories of metaphysics, Plato's.
I'm guessing like it stems from a religious belief in kinds of the worldly realm and
Yeah.
sort of holding that higher than like our realm and sort of, and then you just sort of, it follows that you would consider that to be more real or more legitimate or something.
How are moral ethics like derived from like the spiritual world? I don't remember reading that part of this note. I'm asking if there's looking at. Because like, how would you like? What kind of standards would you have to determine right and wrong
Yeah, exactly.
from like a spiritual? It seems like a religious type thing.
Yeah,
Like Plato was saying, like the form, his theory of form, and all forms are good.
right. It says something about forms, yeah. And like how forms of stuff are like is set perfectly in our minds, like a perfect circle. How we can't all draw like a perfect circle in our minds. We can all like picture a perfect. Yeah, we can like picture a perfect circle in our minds.
Does this have to do with this thing that you was talking about in class? Or like,
Yeah, kind of like the forms. So like that's like the
Like
highest
the
of the
four
high
layers of reality.
yeah.
Yeah. So like forms would be the highest, and then images.
And reality increases at those levels.
So the question was like, why would anyone believe in idealism?
Yeah. I don't know. What's your real
It does seem like a philosophy that is frowned upon. Like people would call you an idealist almost like an insult, like you're very naive to believe this.
Right.
Oh, there really
Because you're
does
living
make
like
it,
La La Land
Right.
instead of here on Earth.
but like it does make a distinction, like idealism, the definition we have of it today is not really like, I guess, what it's saying here. Like when we say idealism, like, oh, you're dreaming and you, like this is like specifically, it's like something different. Like
Or
it's,
it's more leaning more towards like an objective truth type of idealism. Isn't that what we're talking about?
well, I guess you're the one that had the question, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, were you thinking more like the current, like how an idealistic person, or specifically like that you believe in this other, like that spiritual things are more real.
It's like a spiritual thing, sort of.
Seems like maybe if you take a lot of acid or, you know, some of these magic mushrooms, you might
Yeah.
start thinking, oh, idealistic,
Actually.
maybe like really have gotten in touch with your like
Yeah, I had a crazy
spiritual side, you know?
This last Sunday was a crazy trip for me. Yeah. That's what when I read these, like, wow, it seems like these guys like took a bunch of like.
Yeah.
I swear, it's just
Like,
like.
it makes you wonder why, like, I don't think people back then were dosing themselves on like mushrooms and stuff, so like, how did this even come about? Like,
Exactly.
Well, were they? Because I feel like a lot of like natural psychedelics are ancient tradition.
Yeah.
yeah, that's, yeah. I
But
was
it's more like
thinking-
Native Americans, and these were more like, these philosophers came from like Greece
Yeah.
and stuff like
It might have
that.
been something that was just embedded in the culture from like prehistoric days.
Maybe they just talk about it.
Yeah.
But even, I also practice yoga, and like that's another thing where like you do meditation to like get in touch with that, like, you know, the part of you that's a little, like it kind of transcends the real world, and you like get in touch with this spirit, you know, it's hard
Yeah.
to like, it's hard to like give that a definition, but it's kind of like whatever you have, like whatever your own interpretation of that is. So like if someone's really in touch with that part of themselves, they might like come to believe that there is this, you know, idealistic realm that
Yeah.
exists beyond the world.
The spiritual realm.
But at the same time, that is really naive to like base your moral beliefs on something that isn't really, it doesn't directly
Basically.
relate to like what's going on in the world. So I guess I could see it, but I don't think it's like a realistic
Yeah, that's what I
standard
was
for
thinking too.
morals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see. And then like there's this couple of Aristotle, I guess, and so the standpoint of being self-sufficient says that like the perfect good is to be self-sufficient, and then like the next line says we don't not mean a man who lives his life in isolation, but a man who also lives with parents, children, a wife, and friends and fellow citizens generally. So generally, since man is by nature a social and political being, so I was just thinking how does that being self-sufficient if you're living with your parents, children, and or I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Well, maybe he means like, I don't know, self-sufficient as a society? Or is it, we really...
Like that's like the perfect good. Like the perfect good is to be self-sufficient.
However, we define something as self-sufficient not by reference to self alone. We do not mean a man who lives his life in isolation, but a man who also lives with children and wife. So I guess maybe in the same sense, it's like you are self-sufficient within a society.
Okay.
I think like it's the ability to fulfill your desires, which may include the desire to be around others.
Okay.
So,
And maybe the capability of fulfilling your role in society without depending on other people to like to lean on. It's like you fill a role, but you don't need anyone else. You need everyone else to create that role, but you don't need them to help you fill it.
Okay.
Something like that.
yeah.
It doesn't seem like it.
So you need the other people who will depend on you, so that creates the role, because they will depend on you to fill that role, but then you can fill it on your own means.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So what was that definition?
Being self-sufficient, being
Self-sufficient.
perfect good.
Is the perfect good?
Yeah, for the final perfect good seems to be self-sufficient.
You define it as taken by itself makes life something desirable and deficient in nothing.
Wait, what's that?
Self-sufficiency, is that what that means?
Where?
For the present, we define self-sufficient.
Oh, okay. That which was taken.
So I think that's what you guys are saying. making life more desirable for others. Or anything like that.
Yeah, so you like, your life is like devoted to like serving other people, like being a source of like so being a resource for the people around you.
Yeah. Not being a burden. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good, being a resource as opposed to a burden in society. Because, I mean, burden might be a hard...
Being a resource rather than a burden.
Yeah, I feel like burden might be a little,
Do something serious.
like,
Well, what does that say about people who can't be a resource to maybe if you're disabled or
Okay.
That's a good point.
that does bring up a good
does
point.
that make you inherently unethical because you're A, not self-sufficient and
No.
I feel like they're,
But then, yeah, how did it become self-sufficient if they have?
that's,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
well, I mean, you could think of it as like maybe someone's role is to serve those people. They inherently feel like they need to give back by helping the people who are impaired, and therefore the impaired person has filled the role of being, you know, the thing that helps the other person fulfill their like sense of being.
I could see that. I could see that. Instead of thinking of self-sufficiency as like standing on one's own 2 feet,
Right.
I'd use one kind
I remember being impaired was like a common question I was asked in class, but I can't remember the professor. What was the answer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
can't
don't
remember.
remember.
Another thought is like maybe the role of the impaired person is to accept the help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another interesting point that I found was Aristotle was saying how a young man, a student of politics, has no experience in the actions which life demands. Like he's saying how a student of politics can't be a student of politics because he hasn't experienced the political life. And it was just kind of interesting to me because like he was saying that particularly with politics and not with like another subject. So like he's saying it was just weird because he's saying you can't do that even though the whole point of studying a subject is to learn that subject. But he's saying you have to like go experience it firsthand first before coming and studying it.
Right. You've got to have like a point of reference.
Yeah. So he was just saying like it's not possible.
Kind of like learning to swim on dry land.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of seems like that's how doctors are too, because like that's what they call their practice a practice, is because like they're constantly learning, they're constantly getting that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because he said it's not the end of this kind of study is not knowledge but action. So you could have all the knowledge about politics but not really actually do anything about it. You know?
Right, and I think that plays into what she was talking about in last class when she was like, what does it mean to possess a virtue?
Okay.
And so one of my thoughts was, well, there is a difference between possessing the virtue and then acting upon it. And so here, it's like you might have the knowledge,
But you're not acting.
but you're not acting on it. And so like that is, you know, if you're trying to reach that, the best goods, you've got to know what it is and act upon
And
it.
yeah, act too.
Or
So yeah, like sorry to interrupt.
or it's just like you know all this stuff, but you don't know how to make it into an action. You know?
Implement it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
you've got to have the knowledge of how to
like
act on it.
how to act or how to react back to you.
Yeah.
It's just like,
That's an interesting thought, because you could have all this knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate it or how to bring it into like reality, then maybe you can't be virtuous in that sense. You have like the objective knowledge, but like you don't have the knowledge to like give it back.
or just like the experience
Right.
to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
comes to what like the different ones.
I had some things just going back to like class 1 where like the different types of like absolutism, relativism, and pluralism. Like which of those do you guys identify with the most? So like absolutism is like there is one standard for moral judgments. Like one thing is right or it's wrong, no matter what. And the relativism is like right and wrong are relative to the customs of the society.
Probably have to go pluralism.
And then pluralism, like multiple morals exist that are equally right and wrong.
Yeah, because absolutism has the divine commands. I don't believe in upper or any higher God. So in pluralism, there's multiple morals that exist.
And that's something I also wanted to question was like, what exactly does it mean to have multiple morals? Because like I see like it's relativism, it's like, okay, this one thing is good for one person but not for the other.
Right.
And like I can see that in terms of culture. And that's almost the same as like pluralism, but pluralism is like, I don't know,
It's like different ways,
more abstract.
different ways to express your good morals and come to good terms.
I feel like they're both operating off of a different definition of morality. And so, like, relativism is viewing, it's basically stating that there is no such thing as right and wrong.
Right.
Because it's just a flawed concept. And then I think pluralism is almost looking at morality as some kind of social tool that we use to make society better. And so it's saying that, well, every society has different rules they abide by. It may work for them, and so we can't, so it's, relativism looks at it like, as if morality is a statement of truth, and then pluralism is looking at it like it's just a set of rules. And in that way, they can kind of have, it almost seems to me like they weren't looking at morality the same way. Because if you use the same definition of morality for both those perspectives, it really doesn't make much sense. Like, because pluralism would have contradictions. Like, if you're looking at it, like, you can't say this culture has right and wrong down, and so does this culture if they conflict. So,
Yeah. I'm a little lost as to how that is distinct from relativism. How pluralism and relativism are different, because it seems like they both operate on the premise that different things work for different societies, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Relativism
That's like my question. I don't really understand.
Relativism is saying there is no truth, right? But pluralism is saying there can be multiple truths.
So like more than
So relativism, like denying truth?
No, this is kind of saying like there's a truth for each situation. Yeah, that there is.
Okay.
It's, like there's no overlying one truth, but just like it's base to base.
So those two are kind of more similar, and then absolutism is kind of like its own thing.
I think relativism is more of a reaction to absolutism, because absolutism is saying there is only one truth.
Right.
So,
this says pluralism is the acceptance that that those who differ from you have a right to their difference, even if you disagree. And then relativism is pluralism but with ground rules. Pluralism without ground rules.
So relativism allows for, say, a culture that would sacrifice a baby if it were, I don't know, a twin or something, but pluralism would not.
that's where I think that difference comes in, because to say that relativism allows that, like, relativism I think is just a statement that like morals are just a social convention and they're totally arbitrary. And it's not, I don't think relativism would state that, a society that allows rape to run rampant is okay. I think that they would say the word okay doesn't exist for me. Like, there is no good or bad. If you ask a relativist what would make a good society, they'd probably say, well, rape or murder make those illegal. But so I think, it's not really a statement on what's right and wrong.
But it's relative to the beliefs of a culture. So if a culture as a whole believed that rape was okay, I don't see how that's.
But I don't think it's simple as okay.
I wouldn't say that the theory itself advocates for rape, but
Like
I don't see how it doesn't say that this is okay. Like, if a culture believes it's okay, then it's fine.
Yeah, he basically joined the group because he needed to get the permission code or whatever.
Oh, so he's part, I thought he was just some random
Yeah,
guy
no,
who was like, can I get a chair?
So then,
I thought I had a grasp. I feel like it's, relativism is like, so one culture is okay to rape, the other is not. And that's from like one person's standpoint. It's like, for these people it's okay, for these people it's not. And pluralism is like, I understand that it's okay for these people, and I understand that it's not okay for these people. Like, I accept both of their reasons. Whereas a relativism, I think, would either disagree with one or...
A relativist would say that this culture's claim that this is right makes no sense because there is no such thing as right or wrong. A pluralist, I'm a little lost. You say, the pluralist would say, I accept that they believe this. But what does it mean to accept? Like, I guess I'm actually really not that clear exactly what pluralism is stating.
It almost seems like when you're having an argument with somebody and you just really don't disagree, you just say, I respect your opinion.
I almost think it is something like that. Like, it seemed like it was not so much like a real perspective that you could defend. It sounds like it's just something that might have happened as a result of globalization. And people realize, like, wow, there's so many conflicts we have with our moral systems. Let's just all agree to disagree and coexist peacefully and not question each other. And it's more like that.
That really makes sense because in a global society, if you don't hold that belief, then it's like, okay, this culture holds that rape is okay, then you have to do something about it.
yeah.
And it's not practical.
I think this is a good one. Pluralism accepts that everybody has different opinions, beliefs, and cultures, and we can all coexist with each other in spite of our differences. Relativism argues that there is no such thing as objective truth, and all truth is subjective and constantly changing. So under pluralism, you can respect another person's right to believe a different truth, even if you believe an objective truth yourself. Under relativism, relativists believe respecting another person's truth beliefs requires you to never have an objective truth belief yourself. Pluralism focuses on the legal rights of those we disagree with, whereas relativism is a personal belief about your attitude towards truth. I don't know. These people are like,
It seemed like they were like getting down to a point and then...
yeah, it's like, and that was like, he's like, just shortens and makes it easier to understand. And the last part, it's like, oh, well, now I can get it here. Thought I did. I don't know. Anyways, I guess we can move on.
Yeah, we're talking about that for a while.
How about acrasia and encrasia?
Okay.
Where do you fall under? Are you impetuous, weak, strong, or temperate? Because I gotta say, I think I'm pretty weak. At least when it comes to sugar. So impetuousness is giving into the urges and feeling no guilt. You're like ignorant to why you should feel guilty. You just don't know why you would be guilty. Like, for example, my vice is sugar. So it's like, I would eat sugar and not understand it's bad for me. So I wouldn't feel guilty. Weakness is knowing that it's bad for me, eating it.
Oh, you don't say anything wrong with your choices? Or?
Right.
Okay.
And then strength is being able to act upon the reason. So it's like, I know it's a bad thing, so I'm not going to do it. And then temperance is like, you have practiced that strength so long that it's like an inherent habit to just not desire sugar. So that's what I'm going for, but I'm still weak.
Probably strength. I don't really care to do it.
I feel like it's kind of relative depending on what we're talking about.
Yeah, the situation definitely.
Also, yeah, it also depends, what time of the day you want to ask me. Vacillating between impetuous and strength, maybe.
Yeah. Do you guys know that there's scientific proof that like making a lot of decisions throughout the day will weaken your decision making later in the day?
Oh, really?
I feel like it's similar to that.
And
And
also-
also have like you have like decision points.
Decision.
So it's like if
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time deciding like what you're gonna eat for breakfast or what you're gonna wear, it's like you're tiring yourself out. So like
Okay.
when it comes later to deciding whether or not you should eat a salad or pizza, you're gonna go for pizza. You're like, I don't want to choose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that
I see that.
before.
Yeah.
Kind of like self-restraint points too. Like if you
Yeah.
exercise a lot of self-restraint throughout the day, by the end of the day, you're ready to
Yeah,
just...
you're just like, I'm weak. I just want to like eat pizza. Do you want to state your name to the camera and then
Okay.
you're like just so they know? that you're-
Liam Casey.
And for the record, he was only technically 5 minutes late because we started early, so
Yeah.
it's not lightning.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe just to get involved, you want to comment on?
Maybe for what you guys were just talking about with your decision-making points, I think it's kind of like test-taking where you have a certain amount of analytical thought that you can hold on towards what you're doing throughout the day.
So where do you think you fall in terms of self-mastery?
Self-mastery, definitely not an encratic. I don't know, I think like you said, it depends on the time of day, dude.
Yeah, totally. And what we're deciding on.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like in terms of like importance, so like if something is like, I don't know, I can't think of an example. But like deciding whether you're gonna eat sugar or not is kind of like, it's whatever. So maybe it's okay to be like weak in that decision. But if it's more something like, well, what? I don't know, I want to say like major, but that's not really.
I think I see what you're getting at though, like the sugar thing is a personal decision, like it's sort of like a victimless crime. Well, unless you count yourself as the victim. But if your decision more affects like a group of people or society as a whole, then I think that decision carries more weight and you'd be more likely to think it through and behave with strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
But isn't this more like things are going to affect you, not everyone else? Because you're trying to make yourself better.
Yeah, virtuous, right?
Yeah. And like live a good life.
Like a balance between
Yeah.
gluttony or starvation.
Yeah.
Sure. But what if there's a limited supply of food and we need to share it?
No.
Then gluttony is clearly affecting other people.
It's gonna be war.
Well, then I think it comes back to what like type of like moral. So like you're getting into consequentialism, egoism, utilitarianism, and like those kind of things. So it's like it's really interesting how like there's all these waterfalls in ethical
Yeah.
moral theory because it's like, well, in this situation you might have to think in this way. And like
Yeah, there's
I
so
feel
many
like
variables.
I feel like it'd be crazy if there was someone who's just like so absolute for everyone who's like, I'm this
Oh, yeah.
all the time. You know?
I think that's
What a
possible.
crazy life you would live. Like, I feel like you're not human if you.
Yeah, I would like to meet that person.
Yeah. It sounds like a robot. It'd be like talking to a robot.
Yeah, they already said their goal.
Yeah, they just have everything. It's like defined. There's
Yeah.
no like factor of choice. So, like, there's no human behavior.
How are we doing on time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
That was fast.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I wanted to say.
Have you guys?
Yes. Go for it.
I was just gonna ask if you guys have gone over eudaimonia.
Yeah, we haven't.
You haven't.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna touch on. But go
Sure.
for it.
Can you explain what that is?
Eudaimonia, I don't necessarily have like a really strong grasp on it, but the professor is making a distinction between the sensation of happiness and kind of like the fruition of your life's goals, to the extent that you would never necessarily know when you had achieved eudaimonia, because it would be the value and the basis of your entire life, and you could never really know that.
Right. So it's like it's not up to you to determine whether you reach eudaimonia. It's up to others, and like you can't really determine if your life was eudaimonious until the end, because it's like eudaimonia is like acting virtuously throughout your life.